We live in interesting times. For the headlines. Kurdish-led forces pronounced the death of the Islamic State group's nearly 5-year-old caliphate after flushing out die-hard jihadists from their very last bastion in eastern Syria. Special Counsel Robert Mueller submits his long-awaited report into an explosive 2-year investigation of Russian meddling in Donald Trump's 2016 election, a probe the president denounces as a witch hunt, and opponents say it could fuel impeachment. In Dondo, near Beira, the Mozambican city devastated by Cyclone Idai, food distribution finally begins in one of the 20 schools transformed into an emergency shelter. But it's a rather chaotic distribution, while disaster victims who are housed outside the centers complain that they have been forgotten. A very destructive Category 4 cyclone slammed into Australia's remote northern coast, while a second equally powerful storm bore down on the country's west. Wherever you're watching from around the world, thank you very much for joining us. I'm Alma Angeles, and now to the news. Kurdish-led forces pronounced the death of the Islamic State group's nearly 5-year-old caliphate Saturday after flushing out die-hard jihadists from their very last bastion in eastern Syria. Syrian Democratic Forces declared total elimination of so-called caliphate and 100% territorial defeat of ISIS, according to spokesman Mustafa Bali in a statement. He said the SDF had taken full control of Baghouz, a small village on the Euphrates where die-hard jihadists made a bloody last stand. Fighters from the U.S.-backed Kurdish Arab Alliance raised their yellow flag in Baghouz early Saturday to celebrate the landmark victory. In other news, Special Counsel Robert Mueller on Friday submitted his long-awaited report into an explosive 2-year investigation of Russian meddling in Donald Trump's 2016 election, a probe the president denounced as a witch hunt and opponents say could fuel impeachment. Mueller said he is not recommending any further indictments. Avoiding any leaks to the media, a rare thing in Washington, Mueller's crack team of lawyers brought charges against Trump associates Paul Manafort, Rick Gates, Michael Flynn, Michael Cohen, George Papadopoulos, and Roger Stone. 5 have been convicted of various crimes. Crucially, however, none have been charged with conspiracy to collude with the Russians. Now, the fact has formed the basis of Trump's constant loud assertions that there was no collusion and that he is the victim of a hoax run by Democrats. In reality, legal experts say Mueller may have dug up compromising material about Trump's Russia links, but not enough to stand up in a court of law. What the report says is confidential, but Attorney General Bill Barr wrote in a letter to Congress that he might be able to summarize its principal conclusions for Congress as early as this weekend. With this mission as special counsel wrapping up, it's now up to Barr, appointed by Trump, to decide how much of the report to make public. Meanwhile, the battle will now rage over how much of the report can be seen and by whom. Democrats are calling immediately for the contents to be released. Take a look.
Now that Special Counsel Mueller has submitted his report to the Attorney General, it's imperative for Mr. Barr to make the full report public and provide its underlying documentation and findings to Congress. Attorney General Barr must not give President Trump, his lawyers, or his staff any sneak preview of Special Counsel Mueller's findings or evidence. And the White House must not be allowed to interfere in decisions about what parts of those findings or evidence should be made public. The Special Counsel's investigation focused on questions that go to the integrity of our democracy itself, whether foreign powers corruptly interfered in our elections, and whether unlawful means were used to hinder the investigation. The American people have a right to the truth. The watchword is transparency. In conclusion, the President himself has called without qualification for the report to be made public. There is no reason on God's green earth why Attorney General Barr should do any less.
Reports say, or experts say, the report is unlikely to be revealed in the raw, as it could have confidential data on people not charged, as well as top-secret information on sources. But the leaders of 6 House committees, including Judiciary Chairman Jerry Nadler, made explicitly clear that the President must be subject to accountability. If the Justice Department feels it is unable to do so, it must provide Congress with the probe's full evidence. In other news, President Trump abruptly announced the cancellation of sanctions imposed by his own Treasury Department to tighten international pressure on North Korea. It was announced today by the U.S. Treasury that additional large-scale sanctions would be added to those already existing sanctions on North Korea, and I have today ordered the withdrawal of those additional sanctions, Trump said in a tweet. He appeared to be referring to measures unveiled Thursday that targeted 2 Chinese companies accused of helping North Korea to evade tight international sanctions meant to pressure Pyongyang into ending its nuclear weapons program. But the Washington Post reported, citing Trump administration officials, that the president's tweet referenced future sanctions that had not been announced and were scheduled for the coming days. There has been no sign of direct contact between Washington and Pyongyang since the collapse of the February 27 to 28 summit, though Trump has stressed his good personal relationship with Kim, and his administration has said repeatedly it is willing to re-engage. Read the big read, forget dollars and cents. Trump-Kim summit's real value is in affirming Singapore's place in the world. North Korea has warned it is considering suspending talks and may rethink a freeze on missile and nuclear tests in place since 2017 unless Washington makes concessions.
And some people would like to see it go quicker.
Parties for and against Thailand's junta rallied across Bangkok Friday as election fever grips the country ahead of the first poll in 8 years. The generals who seized power in 2014 are hoping to hold on through the ballot box with the help of military-appointed senators who can vote for Prime Minister, and coup leader Prayut Chan-o-cha made his first appearance at a rally for his Palang Pacharat party. But he faces several parties linked to the influential Shinawat family, which has won every election since 2001. Thaksin was ousted in a 2006 coup, and his sister Yingluck's administration was toppled by the army in the 2014 power grab. Thailand is broadly divided between pro-Shinawat factions and an elite aligned with the military, which has portrayed itself as a stabilizing force and defender of the country's monarchy. But loyalties are more complex now, with more than 7 million first-time voters aged 18 to 25 and new parties in the mix. The most prominent is Future Forward, led by charismatic frontman Thanatorn Wangrungkuarak, hit a 40-year-old billionaire popular with millennials. Thousands of young Future Forward supporters decked out in the country's trademark orange colors, waved flags and glow sticks at the stadium in Bangkok Friday night ahead of Thanatorn's appearance as their hero prepped backstage. Even the famously gruff Prayut, the army man who led the 2014 push, took to the stage in Bangkok. Wearing a white shirt and slacks and holding roses, he ascended the stage and spoke for about 5 minutes, jamming his finger to punctuate points. But it remains to be seen whether his Phalang Pacharat can make a dent in the electoral machine of Pheu Thai, the Thaksin-affiliated party that still taps loyalty from the poor but populous rural north and northeast. They are strong with all people, said Sharpay Jangpreng, 26, manager at an education company, at a packed rally for the party. Pheu Thai's top candidate for Prime Minister, Sudarat Keyurapan, told the crowd that happiness and a good economy depend on your pen. Going now to South Africa, the absolute horror of Cyclone Idai has started to become clear. Hundreds of thousands of people in desperate need of help. The World Food Program rushing food and other assistance to large numbers of desperate people stranded by rapidly rising floodwaters in Mozambique, a major humanitarian emergency that is getting bigger by the hour. Our EBC correspondent Priscilla Chulu reports.
The storm may be over, but the true tragedy of Cyclone Idai has yet to unfold. 202. That's the current death toll, but officials fear that number may climb to 1,000 in Mozambique alone. The cyclone struck the countries of Zimbabwe, Malawi, and Mozambique, pelleting the regions in intense rain. Rivers overflowed, swallowing villages whole, leaving them submerged beneath in as much as 6 meters of water, creating what have been termed as inland oceans, extending for miles in every direction. Many victims survived the initial onslaught of rain and flood by retreating to rooftops, seeking higher ground, and even scaling trees. Many are still in these places, awaiting rescue.
Casa, não tem casa, todas as casas já estão mal, mesmo bem estragadas, nem sítio de viver não temos, nem comida, nem nada, não temos quase, está tudo mal, desorganizado. Aqui morreram algumas pessoas, né? Aqui somos um pouco normal. Lá, do outro lado, lá no Buzi, sei lá o que, está assim mal porque todos estão na água. Então nós aqui em casa estamos fora mesmo, fora, não, fome tudo, não tem nada, milho estão lá na machama, não conseguimos nenhuma coisa sequer.
Some are calling this the worst weather-related disaster to hit the southern hemisphere. And the UN Food Agency says this emergency is getting bigger and bigger by the hour.
So the situation in Mozambique, we're confronted with severe flooding and cyclone effects, 600,000 people affected, possibly even going up to 1.7 and more million people affected by cyclone and flooding. Communication completely broken, infrastructure severely damaged, particularly in the city of Beira, but also all the roads to Beira have been cut off. What WFP is doing at the moment, we're helping with the assessments, we're bringing in food through with airplanes and helicopters, we're bringing down helicopters. And we've started the food distribution for all the people affected in the flood and the cyclone affected areas.
Currently, the WFP, or World Food Program, has been coordinating airlifts, delivering food and blankets to people stranded in high places. Not only is the clock ticking on locating and delivering aid to those stranded by this inland sea, officials fear the long-term impact of this natural disaster. Idai struck before the year's corn or maize could be harvested. Maize is a staple food in these African countries, and the timing of this disaster will undeniably affect the region's food supplies for the coming year. Reporting from South Africa, I'm Priscilla Chulu for Eagle News, and I am one with 25.
As search and rescue operations continue in the areas affected by Cyclone Idai, UNICEF Executive Director Henrietta Fore visited Mozambique to see firsthand its devastating effects. Beira bore the brunt of the cyclone, and many of the roads are barely unseeable. Roofs have been washed away, trees have been knocked down. Living conditions in some of the shelters are desperate, and stagnant waters, lack of hygiene, decomposing bodies, overcrowding. These are breeding ground for diseases like diarrhea, malaria, and cholera.
Much of the town was hit hard so that the streets are very wet. Roofs have been blown off of the houses, and many people have come here for shelter. So it is dry, it is a place where they can get some clean water, get some food, and they can get some blankets. People have been donating blankets and clothing because these people have escaped with nothing.
Many women and children are either still waiting to be rescued. Many women and children are either still waiting to be rescued or crammed in temporary shelters and at risk of violence and abuse. There's concern about children who were orphaned by the cyclone or became separated from their parents in the chaos that followed.
For the residents who are from Beira, what they have told us is as the winds got higher and higher and the roofs were blown off of their houses, that the rain was too much in their homes. They could not stay there, so they looked for somewhere that would be dry. The churches and schools are the first places to go. So this is where the humanitarian assistance is focused, and UNICEF is helping with getting the water system working well with the municipal government, because if there can be water and food and some blankets and shelter, that at least will help people tide by.
UNICEF is on the ground helping provide water purification products, antibiotics, oral rehydration salts, and school supplies, as well as setting up health centers and safe places for children to learn and play. More than 65,000 people are already in shelters in central Mozambique, and other sites are being opened. Meanwhile, healthcare workers are concerned about increased health risks in cyclone-hit Zimbabwe after some HIV and AIDS patients living in the affected areas lost their medication and health cards in the floods. Take a look.
Nokuti mamwe mapirisi akaenda nemvura amwe akatota. Inini panapa ndandakatakuriswa bhuku rekuti nditorere umwe mushonga, ndikabva ndatora mushonga last week. Akanga ari supposed kucollecta musi weFriday, saka haana kuzokwanisa kuuya kucollecta nekuti kwakuri kunaisa zvikuru. Saka matablets iwawo akaenda, saka vazhinji havana mapirisi.
Pangu pandaigara mvura yakapinda mukati, saka nhumbu dzangu dzese dzakapera kunyorova, panova ndo pakanyorovawo bhuku rangu remushonga. Asi ndanga ndisiko nokuti ndanga ndiri padambudziko rekunoku ndichisevha vanga vari kunoku.
In Dondo, near Beira, the Mozambican city devastated by Cyclone Idai, food distribution finally began in one of the 20 schools transformed into an emergency shelter, a rather chaotic distribution, while disaster victims who are housed outside the centers, they're complaining that they have been forgotten. Images of the distribution and the survivors of the cyclone are here to see. Take a look.
Não pode, eu tenho filhos, 4 filhos, vou comer pão, não pode dar lá uma foto, eu saí bem da passar.
Devido chuva, depois vento, então derrubaram todas as casas e não temos onde ficar. E nem assim não temos como iniciar com a construção.
Em termos de ajuda, eu só estou a ver, parece que é o primeiro dia hoje. Nós apanhamos essa ajuda, mas não dá para estar para muita gente. Só estão para aquelas pessoas que estão dentro das salas. Enquanto tem pessoas que também estão lá fora, também não estão tendo esse apoio.
The UN is stepping up calls for help in Mozambique as aid agencies struggle to assist the tens of thousands of people battered by one of the southern Africa's most powerful cyclones. A week after Tropical Cyclone Idai lashed Mozambique with winds of nearly 200 kilometers per hour, survivors are struggling in desperate conditions, some still trapped on rooftops and those saved needing food and facing the risk of outbreaks of disease such as cholera. The World Food Programme late Friday night declared the flood crisis a level 3 emergency, putting it on a par with crisis in Yemen, Syria, and South Sudan. The confirmed death toll in Mozambique and neighboring Zimbabwe topped 550 on Friday, with 293 killed in Mozambique, 259 in Zimbabwe, according to the UN Immigration Agency IOM. Around 1.7 million people have been affected and hundreds are still missing. A very destructive Category 4 cyclone slammed into Australia's remote northern coast on Saturday, while a second one, equally powerful storm, bore down on the country's west. Cyclone Trevor, pushing a big storm tide and packing winds of up to 250 kilometers per hour, made landfall on the sparsely populated Northern Territory coast near the Gulf of Carpinteria town of Port MacArthur, according to the Bureau of Meteorology. The storm was downgraded to a Category 3 shortly after making landfall and was expected to weaken further as it traveled inland, though officials warned of heavy rains and flooding. There's a concern that flash flooding may occur, according to emergency operations official Michael Hebb. The Army and police had already evacuated most residents from outposts in Trevor's path, many of them indigenous communities, though a handful of locals remained behind, according to police. There were no immediate reports of deaths or injuries from the storm, but evacuated residents feared what they might find when they return home. The Bureau of Meteorology, or BOM, said Trevor was driving a very dangerous storm tide along coastal regions and that heavy rainfall was expected to cause flooding across wide areas of the Northern Territory and neighboring Queensland. Meanwhile, another Category 4 cyclone, Veronica, was bearing down on the more heavily populated mining region of Pilbara in Western Australian state, where it was expected to make landfall late Saturday or Sunday. A spokesman for the Western Australian branch of the BOM said Veronica was expected to slow down as it approached the coast near the mining center of Port Hedland, with the potential for a very dangerous storm surge at a time when tides are already near their high for the year. He said the region, one of Australia's main mining areas, would experience 12 hours or more of very destructive winds and the possibility of significant coastal inundation. Australia's western coast usually sees 3 or 4 cyclones per year, and emergency services said residents were well prepared for the storm. Against the background of serious warnings against the effects of climate change, World Meteorological Day this year celebrates the crucial role played by the sun in powering all life on Earth and in driving the weather, ocean currents, and the hydrological cycle. Take a look.
Here on Earth, our survival depends on a star at the very heart of our solar system, the sun. For over 4.5 billion years, this huge hot ball of glowing plasma has delivered an energy that powers all life on Earth. It drives the weather and climate, ocean currents and water cycle, and shapes our daily activities and well-being. Located nearly 150 million kilometers from Earth and with a core temperature of around 15 million degrees Celsius, the sun keeps our planet warm enough for living things to thrive. As our planet orbits around the sun each year, the tilt of the Earth's axis determines the length of our days and the amount of sunlight we receive. This shapes our seasons and the changing temperatures that go with them. Over the span of each 11-year solar cycle, the sun's activity waxes and wanes as magnetic field lines that are wound and tangled inside of it occasionally break through to the surface. Since the end of the last ice age some 12,000 years ago, our climate has been fairly stable, although it has often been affected by small changes in the amount of solar radiation reaching the Earth's surface. About half of the sunlight reaching the Earth's atmosphere passes through air and clouds to the surface, where it is absorbed and then radiated upward in the form of infrared heat. Much of that heat is absorbed by the greenhouse gases and radiated back in all directions, warming the surface of the Earth and the lower atmosphere. Without this natural greenhouse effect, the Earth's average surface temperature would be an inhospitable minus 18 degrees Celsius, 0 degrees Fahrenheit, instead of the approximately 14 degrees Celsius, 59 degrees Fahrenheit, we experience today. The current warming of our planet is not related to changes in solar activity, but the burning of fossil fuels and other industrial and agricultural activities, which have led to record levels of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, disrupting the natural energy balance. This is triggering long-term climate change, including the melting of ice, rising sea levels, increasing ocean and land temperatures, and more extreme weather, such as heat waves. To tackle climate change, solar energy, along with other renewable sources, has the potential to replace fossil fuels, like coal and oil, as a major source of electricity. Even in cloudy weather, solar energy can be harnessed directly from the sun, and technological advances are making it cheaper and more accessible to millions of people. As well as affecting the Earth's temperature, the sun drives our planet's water cycle. By constantly evaporating water into the atmosphere and returning it as rain, snow, and dew, the sun makes liquid water possible. The sun also powers our ocean currents. On a more personal level, the sun also plays a key role in our health and well-being. Too little affects our mood and can lead to a shortage of vitamin D, weakening our bones and teeth, while too much can harm our skin, eyes, and immune system. Across the world, national meteorological and hydrological services provide expertise and services both to harness the power of the sun and to protect us from it. Along with weather observations and forecasts around the clock, they monitor our atmosphere, keeping track of greenhouse gases, ultraviolet radiation, aerosols, and ozone. This increases our understanding of the impact on people, our climate, air and water quality, and marine and terrestrial life. Whichever way you choose to look at it, the sun truly is central to our existence, a perfectly positioned force driving every aspect of our daily lives. The more we know and understand, the better we can plan and prepare.
Eagle News International will be right back. Stay tuned.
TRCV ang mag-provide na appropriate ratings sa lahat ng TV shows. Para ugaliin ng pamilya ang responsableng panonood. Teamwork tayo, parents!
Rated G, good for all! Oops, rated PG!
Dapat may mga magulang para sagutin ang mga tanong ng kabataan.
Grabe! Rated SPG! Maselan!
Itan ang paggabay.
Pag rated MTRCB, rated responsable.
Welcome back. Muslims went back inside Christchurch main mosque on Saturday for the first time since a white supremacist massacred worshippers there, as New Zealand sought to return to normality after the tragedy. Take a look. The Al-Nur Mosque had been taken over by police for investigations and security reasons after alleged gunman Brenton Tarrant gunned down Muslims gathered there and at a smaller mosque for Friday prayers on March 15, killing 50 people. Al-Nur was handed back to the local Muslim community on Saturday and began allowing small groups onto its grounds around midday.
I was very shocked and I was fearing for myself, really, and really shocked. And for a couple of days, I really cried a lot.
If someone has a gun, that's when they use it. So there should be a law which should ban using the gun, from a common man. That's what the step was really good. The appropriate step was taken by the New Zealand government. I think even in the US, they should have something similar.
Of course, there is Islamophobia and a lot of other hate and violence, but very few people. And lately it has increased for obvious reason, but otherwise, no.
Join him after that, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq.
New Zealand is still in mourning for the more than 50 people killed in the attack on 2 mosques in Christchurch. And we got some reactions on this tragic incident from Filipino residents there. Our EBC correspondent, Evelyn Vivas, was able to talk to some Filipinos there and how they're reacting to this. Evelyn?
With me tonight is Timoteo Vivas Jr., or shall we call him June Vivas, and he's one of the officials working in one of the government here in New Zealand whose function is to protect the border. So, June, what can you say and what is your reaction when you heard about the news that happened last Friday in the city of Christchurch?
When we heard the news about the tragedy happened in Christchurch, in Christchurch in South Auckland, I feel so sad and I was terrified because that what happened was is truly a manifestation of growing evil doings in this world. But then the government offices in New Zealand will not stop to do some measures in order to stop this kind of violence. Actually, in the office where I'm working is we already done some measures and have a meeting to all of the officers in our organization to conduct the analysis and preparation and plan so as not to repeat the tragedy. And in the country of New Zealand, the government, I have heard the news just this afternoon that our Prime Minister has already declared the total ban for automatic rifles or semi-automatic and the guns, the parts of the guns that can make a certain rifle to be automatic are now all banned in New Zealand.
Because as New Zealanders, we didn't think that this would happen here in New Zealand. We thought that New Zealand would be this safe haven. It's a beautiful country. It's a beautiful country of opportunities to raise your family. And it's just that we're so far away from all the other countries that we wouldn't think that we would have this kind of tragedy here in New Zealand. We question whether is it still safe for us? Do we need change in this country? So yeah, it's very shocking news. But I do commend the current government now for doing immediate action about the tragedy following last week. That they've now put up a gun law that they want to implement to the whole country of banning, I think, all guns. But I think they need to look at the situation objectively and subjectively, because I think you need well, some people would need guns for their livelihood and among other things. But yeah, I think they need to look at the long-term effect of banning this gun law.
I couldn't believe it. I thought, nah, it can't be possible. Like, what is this shooting about? It can't be in Christchurch. I mean, New Zealand, we're known to be one of the safest countries in the world. I think it took a while for that information to get absorbed in the system until someone else confirmed that it is actually true. So I went on social media, I went on Facebook, and the news about Christchurch was all over Facebook. And that's when it felt a little bit more real. And then I went on the news, checked. Like, I think I must have checked multiple times to just confirm, because I think like everyone else in New Zealand, we were all in shock. And up till now, I think a lot of people still cannot believe that it happened here in New Zealand. Like what everyone else is feeling here in New Zealand, I think we all know that the world is not safe anymore, unfortunately. So I think the feeling that I have right now, and I'm probably speaking for everyone here in New Zealand, is that we are saddened that this happened, and we are still very shocked that it happened here in New Zealand.
Yeah, that's right, Ms. Leia. New Zealand is really a low rate of crime when it comes to crime and all this kind of chaos. So this is not us, that's what they said, New Zealand, this is not us. So I'm reporting from New Zealand. I'm Sister Evelyn Vivas, and I'm 1 with 25.
A project of the Iglesia ni Cristo called Aid to Humanity brought love and sunshine to this Maryland community. Ace Ramirez is at the scene. Ace?
The sun is up. It's a perfect day to enjoy the outdoors. But members of the Church of Christ turned this clear, bright day into a more exciting one as they spread a different kind of sunshine.
Today we're having our International Aid to Humanity, which is happening worldwide. Today we are distributing some care packages that would help them with their everyday needs. And not only that, one of the other things we strive to do is to introduce the church to them and to share our values as members of the Church of Christ.
Actually, this is one of our first events that we had, like with the church, and like having an outreach with people coming in and getting free items. Like, this is something first that I ever seen being here. I believe it's a good look on the community. Like, it's helped bring people in and let people know, you know, it's good things that's going on. You could get free items. You can learn about God. I think it's pretty good. I like it.
It makes me feel good because it's a lot of people here and we all fighting for all this. I'm tired of the killings. I'm tired of them being depressed all the time. When the government shut down, we lost a lot of money. A lot of people lost a lot of stuff. But coming to these events, bring your spirit back up. It help you. They willing to help us, to teach us. And it's a wonderful thing. I don't feel depressed. I don't feel hardship. I feel love.
I would say this helps to bring together communities. Like, it's too much right now. It's a lot of divide in the communities. There's a lot of disconnect between just the church and the community. A lot of times, you know, churches, they're inside their building. They don't reach back out. So it's good to have events like this where you actually reach people in the community and actually reach back. So.
People come in, they know that they can get food or clothing or love or education about God and Jesus Christ and the world. And then we have a mixture of different races here. It's just a wonderful thing.
We want them to realize that there are people still in these times that are still ready and willing to do good to their fellow men and not asking anything in return. It is just our values as Christians to extend any kind of help possible to our fellow men.
In this day and age, a simple help from your fellow men is a great reminder that love of neighbors still exists. Reporting from Hillcrest Heights Community Center, for Eagle News, I'm Ace Ramirez, 1 with 25.
Thanks, Ace. We'll now take you to South America, where the same humanitarian effort helped families in Bogota. Community members expressed delight in an event they said gave them hope in these hard times. Our EBC correspondent in Colombia, Janica Peralta, reports from Bogota.
According to the reports of the Statistics Agency, Departamento Administrativo Nacional de Estadística, or DANE, although the poverty rates here in Colombia continued to drop in 2018, the nation's capital, Bogota, increased for the third year in a row. And the impoverishment is more than double than the United States. Responding to the needs of residents here in Bogota, be they spiritual, emotional, or material, the Iglesia Ni Cristo in this part of the world sponsored an evangelical mission and an Aid to Humanity event. People from different parts of Bogota, such as Bosa, Haijuelos, Salitre, Portal Tonal, Los Martires de Santa Fe, came hours prior to the set time in anticipation of how the event could help alleviate their situation. The event commenced with the preaching of God's words by Brother Edwin Peralta. Yes, Amparo Velasquez said she loves what was taught and appreciates that the church reaches out to people. Another attendee, a migrant from Venezuela, recalls how hard it is in his homeland and is thankful for the church's help to people here in Bogota. Bags filled with groceries and other daily essentials were distributed to dozens of families who attended the event. Reaching out to people in this time of hunger, conflicts, and divisiveness helps make our communities a little better. Reporting from Bogota, Colombia, I am Janica Peralta for Eagle News, 1 with 25.
Thank you, Janica. We'll be back with more news right after this break. Stay tuned.
For Business News, this is Cesar Vallejos. Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas Governor Benjamin Diokno announced that the Monetary Board has kept all monetary policy rates unchanged and retained the level of the bank's Reserve Requirement Ratio, or RRR, on Thursday's meeting as inflation pressures eased further in recent weeks. The newly appointed governor recently made what analysts have called dovish comments on handling the monetary policy toolkit, including the possibility of multiple cuts in the RRR of banks in a year's span. On Thursday, however, Diokno announced to the press that they have decided to keep the interest rate on the BSP's overnight reverse repurchase facility at 4.75%, with interest rates on the overnight lending and deposit facilities also kept steady. Diokno said the Monetary Board's decision is based on its assessment that prevailing monetary policy settings remain appropriate as inflation forecasts show consumer price growth comfortably settling within the 2% to 4% target range for this year and the next. Grab is implementing a roadmap that will allow ASEAN micro, small, and medium enterprises to access the company's financial technology services soon, as the company aims to become the region's largest fintech firm this year. Thursday saw Grab Financial, the fintech arm of Southeast Asia's largest super app, launching its Grow with Grab roadmap, a plan that will provide a portfolio of financial services to ASEAN entrepreneurs. It will include micro-insurance products, post-paid installment payment services, and an online checkout payment method for online sellers. We believe that micro-entrepreneurship is not only an economic solution, but a social impact priority and nation-building tool. We at Grab are excited to extend mentorship and market access assistance to our budding Filipino micro-entrepreneurs, Grab President Brian P. Koo said. Grab Financial aims to be the Southeast Asia's largest payments and financial services platform in 2019. It also plans to be the largest insurtech policy provider and the biggest fintech lender in Southeast Asia, while having the largest merchant network. The local economy is expected to grow by 6.4% this year, but concerns loom that every day that the Legislative Department fails to fix appropriations issues, expert at the local bank said on Thursday. In Security Bank Corporation's Economic Forum, its chief economist, Robert Dan Roses, said the bank still keeps a 6.4% forecast for the country's gross domestic product growth this year, but this number is a wait-and-see stance pending developments in the national government. Experts raised particular concern about the country's ongoing budget impasse as the standoff holds up public funds that are used to fuel further productivity in the country. Roses said the country's growth rate can fall to as low as 6%, assuming that the budget gets passed in April. A full year of no budget will yield a growth rate of as low as 5.5% for the country. Despite the budget concerns, the economist said they remain bullish about local economic prospects as factors to the growth of the country continue to improve in recent months. Globe My Business conducted Breakthroughs Tourism, a conference held at the SMX Aura last Thursday that seeks to empower and inspire tourism stakeholders to create the future of travel. If we can just develop this particular aspect of our economy, I think this has the opportunity to provide significant jobs. About 14 million are already involved in this industry. It is an industry that we can excel at in this country, Globe Telecom President and CEO Ernest Koo said. This industry needs a lot of updating in terms of the digital world, Koo said. The lack of up-to-date marketing competency is one of the threats to the continued growth of the tourism sector, along with the entry of new players and retention of skilled employees, according to an SGS Philippines survey. While digital is changing how things are done, Koo noted that advertising in the world of hotels, airlines, in the world of tourism sites have not changed. While the pervasion of digital technologies, innovative business models such as on-demand lodging and short-term rentals, and the unexpected competition from online travel agencies are bringing opportunities, these are also posing challenges that hamper the industry from maximizing its growth. The Globe CEO emphasized its commitment to empower small businesses. Small business, we believe, is the backbone of this nation, he said. Companies like us will enable you through our digital assets and resources like the cloud, social media, and digital advertising.
We can help in any way to empower small business.
OFWs open up businesses as Qatar relaxes some SME policies. Dwayne Dizon from our EBC Qatar Bureau reports.
Filipinos abroad are known to be hardworking, able to multitask in their respective fields when required. Not much known back home, however, are their entrepreneurial drive to not only be financially independent from their employers, but also to serve their fellow kababayans abroad, such as the following OFWs here in Qatar.
Such is the case for Lizelle Reyes, who has recently opened a beauty salon for ladies in Doha. Turning her passion into a profession, Lizelle set up her parlor to take advantage of the Qatar government's drive of empowering small and medium-sized enterprises. For example, the local government has clearly laid out the steps and has improved the procedures of setting up small businesses in the country.
Part of the requirements are to pick and register your business name, get your licenses and permit, which requires a lot of effort. Your accounting system is also necessary to create and manage your business budget.
The Zaija upscale full-service salon, named after the initials of Lizelle's sisters, caters to mostly Qatari expatriates. The business idea came when Lizelle took the leap to transition from doing makeup gigs to establishing her own bricks-and-mortar shop, where she can better serve her growing list of loyal customers. Also taking advantage of the government's policies on entrepreneurship, Mr. Greggy Bueno and his business partner, Ms. Diane Leagas, choose to serve some tasty delights at their newly opened coffee house in the center of Doha.
This in total may include a duration of 2 to 3 months if you are pursuing it on a daily basis. However, it may take as long as 5 months to complete everything.
The Little House of Latte, which is the registered name of the specialty coffee shop, is owned by 2 Filipinos and a Qatari shareholder. The shop itself is manned mostly by fellow OFWs, some of whom were hired directly from the Philippines. As is quite common here in Qatar, OFWs complement their day job with other sources of income, be it reselling online products, making traditional Filipino food and selling them at a markup, investing in photography equipment to shoot events, caring for newlyborns while the parents are at work, and many others. While the main motivation is to earn extra at the sides, businesses such as Zaija Beauty Salon and the Little House of Latte aims to provide a Filipino touch to their services.
I've saved up enough money to start up my business and invest. You can't always control what you have, but you can always control what you do with what you have.
We really wanted to have a business, but it's difficult to open up a business at home when you're not focused and you're not physically present. So that's why we decided to open up here and offer something new to the coffee lovers in Qatar.
Qatar's government aims to boost the capacity and diversification of services offered by SMEs by increasing the private sector's share in the economy in the next few years, and eventually away from hydrocarbon earnings in the long term. For this reason, Qatar is continually improving the procedures of setting up a small business in the country by developing the tools to help these enterprises expand and thus contribute more to the economy.
From Eaglenews Qatar Bureau, this is Dwayne Dizon. We are one with 25.
Meanwhile, the Iglesia ni Cristo gave tribute to our overseas Filipinos workers in South Korea by holding an aid to humanity, especially for them. Our EBC correspondent from South Korea, Rona Nerpiol, reports from Seoul.
The Church of Christ, Iglesia ni Cristo, held an aid for overseas Filipino workers in Seoul, South Korea on Sunday morning, 17th of March 2019. The momentous event was held at Grand Hilton Seoul Convention Center. The large venue was filled with thousands of members of the Iglesia Ni Cristo, along with their co-workers, classmates, loved ones, and friends. Iglesia Ni Cristo members, together with their invited visitors, were inspired and enlightened as they listened to the teachings of the Executive Minister of the Iglesia Ni Cristo, Brother Eduardo V. Manalo. Many of the OFWs in South Korea suffered stress and are confronted with problems on long hours of work, poor working conditions, delayed or unpaid salaries, and even cultural differences. Members of the Iglesia Ni Cristo, together with their invited guests, were given free lunch boxes, and they were entertained by the performers from the Philippines. The gathering made them feel happy and somehow eased their homesickness. At the end of the program, hundreds of overseas Filipino workers who were invited in the said outreach activity were given free bags of goods as a token of appreciation. The guests were overwhelmed and grateful as they received their bags of goods. They are thankful to the church administration for their love and concern to our fellow men. The OFWs who participated in the said event are from Busan, Daegu, and other provinces of South Korea. They went home with a smile on their faces and grateful for the gathering that they have experienced.
That's it for our business and OFW reports. This is Cesar Vallejos. I'm one with 25. Eagle News International will be back. Stay tuned.
Legendary superstar LeBron James will miss the NBA playoffs for the first time since 2005 as the Los Angeles Lakers were officially eliminated with a 111-106 loss to the Brooklyn Nets. The four-time league MVP also had his 8-year run to the NBA Finals snapped on Friday night as the loss takes the lowly Lakers out of the playoff picture for a franchise record 6th straight season. It's a tough season for all of us, James said. It is not what we signed up for throughout the year. Things happen, suspensions, injuries. He said James had 25 points, 14 assists, and 9 rebounds, but it wasn't enough to get the victory in a tight contest that featured 23 lead changes. The last time the NBA's best player wasn't in the postseason was in 2004 to 2005, his second season with the Cleveland Cavaliers. James played in Friday's contest at Staples Center Arena despite missing games recently to get rest for his lingering groin injury. He also took a hard tumble against the Nets after slipping on the baseline while driving to the basket with 22 seconds left in the fourth. He left the game for one possession, then returned. James shot 8 of 25 from the floor in 35 minutes of action as the Lakers are now 2-11 in their last 13 games. Our EBC correspondents Malu and Marie Francisco takes us to Bratislava, Slovakia's capital since the country's independence in 1993. Take a look.
Slovakia, one of the youngest independent countries of Europe. Slovakia and the Czech Republic used to be together as Czechoslovakia. In the 1990s, after the fall of communism in Europe, Czechoslovakia split into two independent countries, the Czech Republic and the Slovak Republic. Welcome to the capital city of Slovakia, Bratislava. Let's walk toward the old town and gaze at the buildings, and you can help but think of the times of the Hungarian royalty. Bratislava enjoys a rich and colorful history. In the 1500s, due to the Ottoman occupation of the Hungarian territory, the Kingdom of Hungary declared Bratislava its capital. The city was the official coronation town and the seat of Hungarian kings. For almost 3 centuries, 11 Hungarian kings and queens were crowned in Bratislava. Besides its colorful past, Bratislava also offers some edge of humor. This is the statue of the nice Nasi, or Schöne Nasi, based on a real person's story. And there's the statue of Seville, a funny-looking guy peeking out from under a manhole, and you wonder, what is he up to? Taking a break from his work, or simply looking under women's skirts? Also say hello to the statue of a Napoleon soldier. He seems to be in the right place, there in front of the French embassy. The city's major attraction and symbol is the Bratislava Castle, standing on a hill above the Danube River. The castle dates back to the 9th century. It has undergone renovations, adopting the architecture of different periods of time. The castle was the formal seat of the kings of Royal Hungary. Today, the Slovak parliament uses the castle to represent the country in various functions. The castle gardens in a Baroque style are open to the public, and the view from here is amazing. Across the river is the new bridge with a spaceship-like structure, and locals call it the UFO, unidentified flying object. On the top, there's an observatory deck and a restaurant. The Austrian-Hungarian Empire has long been gone, but its symbols have withstood the test of time. Just like the Bratislava castle that stands on the hill, watching over the city that lies along the river Danube.
From
Bratislava, I'm Marie Francisco, ABC correspondent, and I am 1 with 25.
I'm Malu Francisco, ABC correspondent, and I am 1 with 25.
Thank you, Malu and Marie, and that's it for tonight's broadcast. For everyone here on Eagle News International, I'm Alma Angeles, always 1 with 25. Good night.